Welcome to Beyond the Document, the podcast from Formpipe, where we discuss everything that is output, document, and customer communication management. And today we're focused on core banking, and specifically how core banking platforms can help banks transform to gain competitive edge and efficiency. So I'm delighted to welcome Randy McFarlane, Global Head of Partnerships at Thought Machine, to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Well, it's great to be here in London in person.
Excellent. Well, you're very welcome. I hope you've been looking after you all right.
Well, I've had the coffee, Randy.
Nice.
So let's start by making sure that everybody listening to this podcast understands what it is that Thought Machine do. And I've kind of called it your raison d'etre.
Yeah.
Because what I really love, and I'm going to read this directly off your website, but there's part of your mission statement that says to permanently rid the world's banks of the problems generated by poor technology running on legacy infrastructure.
Well, I think you just captures it in one.
There
you go.
Podcast
Perfect.
done.
No, podcast done. No, I mean, that's obviously our mission in life, what we're intending to do. But the story started actually back in the sort of mid 2000s. And Paul Taylor, our founder and CEO, he had a company called Phonetic Arts. Yes. So think the speech-to-text technology that you get with Android. And Google identified, there's a very cool piece of tech, so they acquired his company. So he got absorbed into Google and was there for about 2-3 years, I believe. But whilst he was there, he went on a bit of a learning journey. He saw how the power of the cloud could really drive scalability, flexibility, agility, the ability to bring products to market very quickly, and really importantly, how you could stand up these hugely powerful applications with a very small footprint of resources. So back in 2014, he left Google, took 25 engineers with him, and set up Thought Machine with the idea of bringing that sort of transformative technology to financial services.
Sure.
Now, really interestingly, core banking wasn't what he was intending to do.
Okay.
Right. So his idea was to use the power of data analysis to provide banks with real insights on their customers. Right. Okay. So he got himself a gig, and his team set about trying to access this data so that they could do the data washing and pull out these insights and then provide real recommendations about how they could drive real customer value based on their own data.
Okay. Which back then was a big thing.
Was a big thing, huge thing back then. But here's the thing. The problem was, as soon as they tried to start accessing this data, where was the data? Yeah. It was all over the place. Yes. And so what they uncovered was this spaghetti of siloed systems and different databases that didn't talk to each other, and trying to access the data was virtually impossible. So he did a little bit of research and discovered that actually all the banks, particularly the large systemic banks, had exactly the same issue. Yeah. And that's when the pivot happened. Okay. Paul said, actually, how about we set about solving that problem? Yeah. How about we stand up a platform that enables banks to leverage the power of the cloud and the agility and the scalability, and all of the transformative value that can bring.
A bank with that kind of heritage is going to have a complex background.
Absolutely right. So Paul and the engineers built Vault Core from the ground up, using open source cloud native technologies, with the view of not just leveraging the power of the cloud, but ensuring that it was configurable so the banks would only be limited by their imagination in terms of the financial behaviors of product. Yeah. High resilience, horizontal scalability, all of those good things wrapped up. And now banks can use the platform to transform and build the bank of the future.
Superb. Yeah, and I didn't realise it'd been 10 years this year either.
Yes.
A good time to do the podcast.
Yeah, a very good time to do a podcast. Yeah, we had our 10th anniversary celebrations back in June, I think. Had a little party there.
We'll keep them stories for another time.
yeah, definitely not for this podcast.
Now, many of us, not only in banking software, but wider software industry, will talk about ecosystems. Yeah. It's a word that you often hear. And I know we have our own at Formpipe, where we have what we call tech partners who complement what we do. They tend to operate on the edge of where our software does. Yeah. Now, you have headless software here at Thought Machine. So I presume with headless, it becomes even more important to have an ecosystem. So how does that impact on Thought Machine operations, either prior to the sale of Vault or during the implementation?
Yeah, that's a great question. So yes, we are a headless core. But when you think about the bank's objective and journey to build out a best-in-class technology stack to power their transformation, to get on their next-gen banking journey, our core platform is one piece of the jigsaw, right? A very compelling piece of the jigsaw, and that will enable them to do lots of transformative things. But they need more than that, actually. And what banks would have to do in the past would be to identify all those capability areas themselves. I'd then identify the vendors, then do the build work on the integrations, etc., which is very time consuming and resource heavy on that. So we have done some of the heavy lifting actually for our customers and for our prospective customers by going out to market, identifying the best of breed technology vendors in their particular capability space. That's exactly what we did with Formpipe. As far as we could see, and from all our analysis and all the market feedback, was that Formpipe were best in class when it came to document management. So we've identified all of those vendors, and then we've built out a real piece of code and integration, which is fully documented, which allows the customers to then take that piece of code, take that integration, and then use that as an accelerator for what it is that they want to do as they build out their customer journeys, as they build out their technology stack. We call it the integration library.
Yes, you did.
And I'm delighted to say Formpipe are a key part of that. But the customers don't have to take our integrated, pre-integrated partners, although it allows them to stand up their solutions quicker in terms of time to market. If they identify their own vendors, if they already have existing relationships, for example, our platform has all industry standard APIs, so it's very easy to plug in any other capability vendors to round out the proposition that they're trying to.
And when I stand, or imagine standing in the shoes of a client, I can only think that having, I'm going to say, pre-validated vendors as well as part of your integration library must reduce the potential headache for them at deployment stage. So it must bring some assurance to them when they're selected.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right.
I think it'd be really good for people listening. Could you talk us through an example of a client who's selected Vault along with a number of partners and the purpose that they brought in those partners?
Yeah, actually, probably a good example is a huge success story is Trust Bank in Singapore. So Trust Bank was a sort of digital banking joint venture that they did with the Fair Price Group. This is back in 2022. So for anyone that doesn't know, Standard Chartered, very traditional bank, 160 years old, but it's not lost on them that the world's changing, right? The world is changing, and the world's changing very quickly. Changing demands of consumers and all that. So their response to it initially was, prior to the Trust Bank, we worked with them. We stood up Mox Bank in Hong Kong, huge success. And then they looked to replicate that success in Singapore with Trust Bank. A variety of partners in there, some technology vendor partners, AWS, as in Amazon Web Services, very key to to that ecosystem as well. GFT being the delivery partner there. So again, building the bank from the ground up, utilizing our platform Vault Core to enable them to stand up very innovative, differentiated products that were very targeted on a particular segment of the Singaporean market, particularly those young consumers beginning to come through. They've got disposable income, but they're also digital natives. So they're looking for a different experience, how they interact with any services provider, including their financial services provider.
I think that targeted thing is really important in the story of Trustbank.
Yeah, absolutely. So delighted to say that actually within a year of its launch, Trustbank had acquired over 600,000 customers, which is about, I believe, around 12% of the retail customers in that market. And in doing so, positioned itself as one of the world's fastest growing banks.
That's a lot of onboarding.
That's a lot of onboarding, but a very slick, smooth onboarding.
Well, it's got to be too.
Of course. So they didn't launch it, but I think the sweet spot for them was a lot of time when banks come to market initially, they lead with one product, because the restrictions and the confines of the technology that they're using allow them to build a product, and then they had to go again to build another product. Because of the agility and the flexibility of the Vault Core platform, Trustbank were able to launch several products at the same time. So it's a really rounded proposition that they're bringing to market. So it's a credit card, it was a savings account, it was a family personal accident insurance, alongside a loyalty reward program. So it was a fully formed value proposition, fully formed bank that they were able to offer out into the market, which I think drove a lot of its success.
Brilliant. And Trustbank are a success story, and that leads into our experience of Thought Machine, because as you alluded to before, Andy, we're a proud member of the integration library. And what we've seen, I'm going to call it the journey that we've been with yourselves, is because we're at the end, it's very interesting to see where we can pull the different data sets from. So Trustbank, although we're not involved with them, that's a really good example of where there will be data emanating from multiple different sources and being pulled together. Obviously, we need that in our space to create the client communication. So can you just touch on where you see Thought Machine and Formpipe working together with that pre-built integration that we have?
So look, being completely transparent with you, one of the reasons why we identified a vendor in Formpipe space that you play was because we were being asked by customers for it. Right?
The market's asking.
And look, you alluded to the fact that we're only 10 years old, so we're learning as well, right? So the requirements that a bank has, what do they need for their full end-to-end technology stack? What are the things that are business critical, actually, in terms of what they want to do? And that document management piece was something that was coming up again and again and again. So as we were standing up the integration library, that was one of the capability areas that we prioritized. We did our analysis on the market. Who was the best of breed vendor in that space? The name Formpipe kept coming up again and again and again, including from some customers who are already using your solution. That's always an assurance that when a customer who's actually using the solution says they would never move off, then that's when we think, actually, this is something that if we combine the proposition that we can then take to our customers to drive more value. So really, I see the integration between ourselves, and you talked about the data piece. So using the raw data output from Vault Core, I see the Formpipe's LaserNet solution allowing customers to design and to format and produce and distribute all types of banking documentation, right, to the end customer, really importantly, at pace, with speed, right? And that that resonates very strongly with our own value proposition narrative to our customers.
That's great to hear, because we talk about speed and that volume, and often it's that client communication that's forgotten about when banks are on this journey. So it's great to hear that from Thought Machine themselves rather than our own mouth. Thank you for that.
No, good.
And we sit on the edge of the core banking space. You guys are firmly within it. It's a very, very interesting market, I find, constantly changing.
It is.
Can you just touch on where you see the market at the moment, and specifically how that is affected by different geographies that you guys operate within?
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I see it very simply, actually. But so you talk of different geographies. So we are a global company.
Yes.
So we have clients across EMEA, across APAC, across the Americas. We also have feet on the ground in all of those regions too. So genuinely a global organization. But the market itself, does it differ from region to region? I would argue not. And the reason being, yes, you have some differentiation in terms of cultural aspects or appetite to do certain things, or it could be slight differences in regulation, for example, or if we're talking about cloud technology, there's only certain places in the world that actually have data centers and that type of thing. But what is common and consistent is the need to modernize, the need to change. The vast majority of banks on the planet, regardless of which region or market and geography that they're in, are running on legacy infrastructures, which are holding them back from innovating and meeting changing consumer demands. So we talked about Trust Bank, the need to stand up a different kind of bank with a different experience for a new generation coming through. That's happening everywhere, right? Regulatory changes, regulatory pressures are happening everywhere.
And will never stop.
So the need to be able to innovate, the need to be able to bring bring products to market quickly, and being able to adapt and to evolve is an experience shared by, I think, banks all over the world. And it's our mission to help banks get on that journey to transform, continue evolving, and adapt to market changes.
Yeah, I agree. And it's interesting when we get involved with the Greenfield Bank, obviously they don't have all that headache and all that baggage, but equally an existing, let's call Universal Bank, who's launching a new line, they've got the balance sheet and the reassurance that they've got some time to get it right.
Exactly
so there's not one that I think is better than the other. It's multiple ways to market.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, that's a journey that we're really excited to be on with Thought Machine as well. It's been fantastic today. Any final thoughts on where you see things going, Randy?
Only that the journey's just begun.
Yes. Only 10 years old.
Only 10 years old. We've been going like a train, which is fantastic for us, obviously. But I also think fantastic for the banking industry, because if we can help more banks transform, more banks modernize, and really importantly, be much more customer centric in how they engage with their customers, but also the products that they offer to their customers, then that's got to be a good thing for everybody.
Yeah, we'd fully concur with that. Being client focused at all times is one of our values as well. So
perfect. That's why we're great partners.
Fantastic. Thank you, Randy. Thank you for listening to Beyond the Document, and thank you again to Randy and Thought Machine for hosting us today. You can find out more about what Randy and his colleagues do by visiting thoughtmachine.net. I'm Ben Saxton. Catch you next time on Beyond the Document.